Good morning, students. I'm Lavanya, DL in Computer Science, TDWRDC Men Kamareddy. Today, my topic is deadlocks. So, before going into detail about the deadlocks, first we are going to see what is an operating system. Operating system is a program that acts as an intermediary between the user of a computer and the computer hardware. Without an operating system, no system works. So we need the operating system in order to manage our IO devices, our file system, network management. So it will take care of everything. So what are the functionalities of this operating system? Means we are going to see now the functions of the operating systems include the process management, memory management, disk management, networking, security, device drivers, graphical user interface, and the process management. So coming to the process management, what do you mean by a process? Process means it's nothing but the program under execution. So a program under execution is called as a process, which is an active entity. So during this process execution, we have many situations will be occurring in our systems. So one of the situation here we are going to see is the deadlock. So what is the deadlock means? So a deadlock is a condition when two processes sharing the same resource are effectively preventing each other from accessing the resource, resulting in both the programs ceasing to function. Means what? What do you mean by this? Means in a multi-programming environment, two processes can execute at the same time. So under this section, you have several programs may compete for a same resource, and a process requests a resource, and if the resources are not available at the time, so the process enters a wait state, and this wait state may happen that waiting process will never again change the state because the resource they have requested are held by other waiting process. So this situation is called as a deadlock situation. Means what? Need of same resource by more than one process. Single resource is being needed by many processes, and this resource which is being held by another waiting process. So in this section you have the deadlock situation arises. So you can compare this with our real life situation. So we are taking a real world example where the example of the traffic which is going only in one direction, and here the bridge is considered as a resource. So when a deadlock happens, it can be easily resolved if one car backs up. And means what? If one car moves backward only, then only the you have a traffic without jam. So unless and until one car goes back or step backwards, the front car cannot move further. So that is nothing but when we compare to our system, it is nothing but the preempting resources and rollback. So several cars may have to be backed up if it is a deadlock situation occurs, so that the traffic moves without any traffic jam. Okay, so next we are going to see what are the necessary conditions for the deadlocks. So you have main 4 necessary conditions for the deadlocks. First one is the mutual exclusion, second one is the hold and wait, third one is the no preemption, and fourth one is the circular wait. What do you mean by this mutual exclusion? Means where the resources cannot be shared. You have some resources which are intrinsically not shareable. Means what? By their own property they are not shareable. Example is your printer. Printer is a single resource, but simultaneously printer cannot be shared by two processes. Only one process can use it, and if it completes its execution, then it will release the resource, and the other process then it will start using that resource. So that is called as the mutual exclusion. Next is the hold and wait. There must exist a process that is holding at least one resource and is waiting to acquire additional resources that are currently being held by the other process. there must exist a process. One process should be there which would be holding at least one resource. Means what? Holding one resource and again it wants to acquire additional resources. So that type of processes, if there exists, then that situation is called as the hold and wait situation. Next is the no preemption. No preemption means a resource cannot be preempted. A resource cannot be preempted means the resource cannot be left in between or aborted. So unless and until a process completes its execution, you cannot preempt a resource. So that is the no preemption, that situation. Next is the circular wait. If there is a circular cycle in the wait for graph or the resource allocation graph, then it is called as the circular wait. If there exists a cycle, you have the resource allocation graph where your process, your resources, everything is shown graphically. That we are going to see next. So this is a resource allocation graph. Can you see the diagram? So deadlocks are described more precisely by a directed graph called as the system resource allocation graph. So under this you have the process which is being represented by a circle. Next is a resource type with two instances. Resource is being represented by a small square with the two instances, means two dots in it. Next is a process. If a process requests an instance of resource rj, then it would be given as pi, an arrow to be given to the rj. Means what? Process pi requesting the resource rj. Next is an instance of rj is allocated to pi. Means what? Already one resource is being allocated to process pi. So that is what. And this is the graph if you have a deadlock. Graph if you have a deadlock means what? Just now I told you, if a deadlock situation means if you have a cycle in it, then a deadlock has been occurred. So we'll check whether you have a cycle in this graph or not. So R2 is a second instance of the R2 resource which is being allocated to P1 resource, and P1 is requesting for the R1 resource which is of single instance, and R1 is already allocated to P2. P2 is requesting for R3. R3 is allocated to P3 and P3 is again requesting R2. So there exists a cycle here. Means what? A deadlock situation occurs. Okay. Next, this is an example of the resource allocation graph where the three processes you have, P1, P2, P3, and four resources, R1, R2, R3 and R4. So here R2 has two instances. One of the instances is allocated to P1 and another instance is allocated to P2. And P1 is a process which is requesting for the resource R1. And R1 is again means allocated to P2, but P2 is requesting R3 and R3 is requesting for P3. And here no cycle is there. No cycle is there. That means what? You don't have the deadlock situation here. Okay. Next is a resource allocation graph with a deadlock. Means what? If you have a cycle, you have a deadlock situation. So this is a resource allocation graph with a deadlock situation. Means you have a cycle in this. Can you observe that? So R2 is allocated to P1, P1 requesting R1, and R1 is being allocated to P2, but P2 in turn again requesting R3. R3 is again allocated to P3, P3 is requesting R2. So there exists a cycle in this resource allocation graph. So therefore you have a deadlock in this situation. Okay. Next, so what are the methods for handling the deadlock? You have four different types of methods for handling the deadlock. First one is a deadlock ignorance. Second one, deadlock prevention. Third one is deadlock avoidance. Fourth one is the deadlock recovery. So what is meant by deadlock ignorance? We'll see. So ignorance is nothing but just ignore the problem altogether and pretend that deadlocks never occur in the system. Means what? You just pretend that your deadlock has never occurred, and just leave the problem. So just power off the computer and restart the system. So that's how you can ignore a deadlock situation. And it is widely used technique, and this technique reduces the trade-off of additional code, which is being decreasing the performance of the computer. Means what? Why this additional code means, if you are handling the deadlock, so we need to add some additional code for that. But do we get this deadlock situations frequently? Means no, deadlock situations will never occur frequently. So handling this deadlock situation, which will never occur frequently, is an additional or a trade-off for us, which would be reducing the performance of the computer. To avoid that, what we are doing means, what many of the operating systems are doing means, they are just using this method to handle the deadlock. How means, just ignore the deadlock, so thereby removing the additional code and increasing the performance and the speed of the system. So generally Windows and Linux operating systems, they'll use this method to handle the deadlock. Next we have is deadlock prevention. Deadlock prevention, it deals with this is nothing but prevention is better than cure. How to prevent the deadlock before happening it. So that's what we are going to see here. So you have four necessary conditions which are to be true when for a deadlock situation to be occur. So how to prevent it means, do not allow one of the four conditions to occur. What are those four conditions? We have already seen. First one is the mutual exclusion, no preemption, hold and wait, and circular wait. So these were the four conditions. So first condition we'll see is the mutual exclusion. A mutual exclusion condition must hold for the non-shareable resource. So it would be generally mutual exclusion condition would be hold for the non-shareable resources, and shared entities like you have the read-only files, they don't need mutual exclusion and they aren't kept acceptable to deadlock. So if you have the shared resources like you have the read-only files, so two processes can access the same file at the same time. So there they are not acceptable to deadlock. So here you have the mutual exclusion false, but in the non-shareable resources you cannot make it false because they have to be used in a mutual exclusion state only. So it is not possible to deny the mutual exclusion condition, as some resources are intrinsically non-shareable. They are intrinsically non-shareable. So in this situation the mutual exclusion condition cannot be denied. So next condition we'll see, that is the hold and wait. So here collecting all the resources before execution, and a particular resource can only be requested when no others are being held. So sequence of the resources are being maintained here. So collecting the resources, what all the resources are needed by a process that are being collected first, and we have to check that no process should wait for the resources. So you have to make this hold and wait false. So for that what we are doing means collecting all the resources before execution, and particular resource is being requested only when it is free. So no hold and wait. So before a process starts, the resources needed to it are being allotted first, and after its completion of its execution they are released automatically. Okay, so this is the hold and wait situation. Next is the no preemption. So under this no preemption, if a process that is holding some resources requests another resource that immediately allocated to it, then all the resources currently being held are being released. So no preempted resources are added to the list of resources for which the process is being requesting for. So process will be restarted only when it is regaining the old resources as well as it is being requesting. So no preemption, So no preemption means what? You are making this no preemption false. Means what? You have to preempt the resources. So if your process is being requesting for the resource, and if it is being held by another process, then what we have to do is that resource has to be preempted and immediately it should be allocated to the requesting process. So that is making the no preemption false. Next is a circular wait. So imposing the total ordering of the resource type and the process request in an increase in order of enumeration. So here every resource will be given a number. So every resource would be given a number, and every process has to be given or request a process in a higher means what a higher enumerating order. Means like for example, P1 is requesting R1 and next P2 can request R2 only. It cannot again request for R1. So that is this situation. Okay, so circular wait, it is imposed on total ordering of the resource types. Every resource will be given a number, and the process requests are being given, means process has to be requesting the resources in an increasing order of enumeration. So this is called as a circular wait. Now coming to the deadlock avoidance. So deadlock avoidance, it requires that the system must have some additional a priori information, which means the simplest and most useful model here is each process declare the maximum number of its each type, what are the resources each type it needs. Means what? So what you want before only informing the system, before only every process should inform the system what all it wants. And according to the Banker's algorithm, for every resource allocation we check whether the system is in safe state or unsafe state. So in Banker's algorithm, so when we are like Banker's algorithm is nothing but in bank we will be going. So if we want to draw some amount, they'll give you a token. So according to the token, when we get our chance, you go and withdraw. So when they'll give the token, means they'll first check whether they have that much balance to draw the amount or not. So if they have enough balance, then only they'll give us the token. Then you can withdraw the amount without any mistake. Okay, so this is called as a deadlock avoidance. You have the Banker's algorithm which would be used in this situation. So what is a safe state and unsafe state? Means if the system is in safe state, means what? If you have no deadlocks, then a system is called it is in safe state. And if a system is in unsafe state, means there is a possibility of the deadlock situation. And how to avoid it means ensure that a system will never enter the unsafe state. So that is the avoidance. Can you see this? So in the unsafe state only you have the deadlock situation occurs, and in the safe state you don't have the deadlock situation. So coming to the fourth type of handling the deadlock, fourth method of handling the deadlock, that is called as a deadlock recovery. Now under this deadlock recovery, what will happen means you allow the system to enter a deadlock state. So you allow the system to enter the deadlock state and then detect whether the deadlock has occurred or not. If the deadlock occurs, then recover from that deadlock situation. So these are the 3 steps which will be followed under this method. So coming to the deadlock detection, so generally the deadlock detection would be done with the help of a wait for graph. A cycle in wait for graph will be giving us a deadlock situation has occurred or not. Will be means using that system allocation graph or wait for graph. By viewing that, if it has a cycle in it, then there exists a deadlock. Otherwise it is not, your deadlock situation never exists or it is not existing. So an algorithm which will detect a cycle in a graph, it requires an order of n square operations where n is the number of vertices in the graph. By looking at the graph itself, you can detect whether a deadlock situation arises in your system or not. Okay, and after detecting the deadlock situation, now it's a time for recovery from the deadlock. So what are the things you can do? Means there are two things we can do here: deadlock from recovery. One is process termination, and the other one is preemption of your resource. So two things we can do. First we'll see how the process termination will be. Process termination is nothing but aborting all the deadlocked process and abort one process at a time until the deadlock cycle is eliminated. Means what? First, abort one process. If the system is in a deadlock state, first abort one process which is held up in the deadlock situation, and again go and check whether the deadlock has occurred after removing that process or not. If still the deadlock is there, remove one more process. So that type of aborting the processes and checking the deadlock cycle, then you can remove the deadlock from the system. So in which order you can remove, or which order, which type of processes you have to preempt or terminate, means according to the priority you can select, or how long process is computed and how much longer time it is needing to complete, and based on the resources the process has used, based on the resources process needs to complete, and how many processes will need to be terminated, and in process interactive or batch. So all these things have to taken into order, and select one of the process and abort it, and again check whether the deadlock has occurred or not. Detection and again preemption, means or you can call it as the process termination. Okay, this cycle will go on until the deadlock cycle is eliminated. Abort one process at a time until the deadlock cycle is eliminated. Next type of recovery is preemption of the resources. So selecting a victim, which is minimize the cost and roll back, return to the safe state and restart the process for that state. And starvation means same process may always picked up as a victim, so which will include in the cost factor. So here you have to select a victim and resource preemption. Resource means what? Whatever the resources we are allocating to the processes, just preempt that resource and check it whether deadlock occurs or not. Okay, so that type of thing we can do it, rolling back the situation and going to the safe state and again restart the process for that state. So this is how the recovery from deadlock. So these are the 4 types of methods for handling the deadlock situation. I hope you have understood the topics deadlock. Thank you.